somewhat beaten down. We feel somewhat confused by the situation that we're in. I think the first thing we have to do is understand that we were part of the problem. I think the second thing we have to understand is that we are going through the burn. And then the last thing we have to remember is some of the best lessons are when you go through the burn. Your parents teach you that when you're growing up. The best lessons are when you go through the burn. So what we can learn from this is, let's not elect Republicans just because they know the talking points. Make sure they know the lessons associated with those talking points. Make sure that they know the actions that are required to make those talking points real. Now, I'm running for governor in the state of South Carolina, as he told you. It is an interesting time in that South Carolina was on the national scene for way too long. But what I do see is that it's a great opportunity, because this is a time where I don't want South Carolina to just turn around and go through a governor's race. I want South Carolina to know what good government looks like. I want South Carolina to understand what reform is. And I want us to be a state that can be an example of what every state should look like. And for us to turn around and show the federal government what they need to look like. We've got an opportunity. I don't want you to be discouraged. I saw my friend Suzette earlier, and she said this is just a discouraging time. I'm actually excited by this, because there's no place to go but up at this point. Exactly. We have to look at the fact that there's a lot of good that can come from this. But that will come when people understand the power of their voice. That will come when you get involved and you get active. And that's what I'm going to ask you to do. If you live in South Carolina, I want you to get active in this governor's race, because I think it's going to be one of the most important races that we've had. If you don't live in South Carolina, I still want you to get active, because I want you to understand we're going to change our government one state at a time. And what I can promise you is South Carolina is going to show what an accountable government can look like. South Carolina is going to turn around and show what it's like to trust your government again. And South Carolina is going to show what conservatives need to look like. It's not about having a Republican majority. It's about having a conservative majority. So that's what we'll continue to do. It's been a real pleasure talking to you, and I will open it up for questions, I think, if you guys have.
So Nikki, if you had the caucus, the Republican caucus standing against you the last few years because you stood up and said, no, I want to identify who voted for this, how are they against you for running for governor? In other words, are they going to stand in your way, and they're actually pushing their candidate, right?
I think that you will see some very status quo candidates in that race. And that's okay, because we're very different. My message is very much about reform, and my message is very much about accountability. The way I deal with the General Assembly is the fact that I know what it's like to be in their shoes. I know how they need to go home and be able to hang their hat on something. What I will do is always allow the General Assembly to do the right thing first, and I'll give you the example. When we were dealing with the voting on the record bill, and it was going before subcommittee, they came to me and they said, we want you to know this bill's going to die today. And I said, okay, that's fine. And I said, but I want you to know what your options are. If you decide to kill this bill today, I will turn around and make sure that everybody knows it is clear that the Republican leadership does not understand what it means to be accountable to the people they represent. If you pass this bill today, I will say it is very clear that the Republican leadership understands what it means to be accountable and responsible to the people that they represent. The person that's going to kill that bill moved for its passage. My job is also to give them the opportunity to do the right thing. I honestly believe everybody that runs for office, they run for office with the best of intentions. They really want to do the right thing. What happens in state and federal government is when they get to the State House or when they get to Washington, there is so much pressure put on them by their leaderships to fall into place and to fall in line and to do what they're told. So what you see is someone with a lot of energy get out there in year 1 and 2, and all of a sudden they start to get into those leadership talking points in year 3 and 4 and 5, which is what we see happen. And it's because they get broken along the way and they're told not to do that.
And that's what happened to you. They told you when you were the top of the the heat. You can't do this, and we're gonna demote you. What
And
I was asking is, are they going to promote you in the party, or they've already picked their candidate?
You know, I mean, I don't think that I'm gonna get a huge majority of caucus members that are gonna get behind me for governor, no. My goal has never been to get endorsements of legislators in South Carolina. My goal is to get the endorsements of the people of South Carolina.
Yeah.